welcome to Eileen Chevalier's Typewriter Alphabet Botany curriculum. Today is the very first lesson, so it's going to be a little bit different than the other ones, but I'm going to try to do a good job of introducing you to the program. The first thing that you're going to want to do is go online and print out your lesson guide. So the lesson guides just go through the entire, this isn't the one for today, but they're listed there, and you can just print them out and follow along as you go through the class. First section is the read section, and that will tell you which materials we're using for the day. So you can just look at that and see what books to gather for that day. You'll always need a journal. This is my journal right here. I love these because I can put multiple journals within it. So I have one that's for taking notes, and then I have this little pocket in there, and then I have the journal, and then I can have an added pocket in the back to just put some supplies. So this is the way that I do it, and I'll show you that more as we go along. You'll also want every day, even if I don't list it, you'll want the Typewriter Alphabet flashcards. So they come in a box that looks like this. These are the cards themselves. And today, since this is an introduction, we're going to look at these cards a bit more than we normally do. Usually there are specific cards that you'll use. On this lesson guide, you see that it just has the B card listed. So that is a specific card that you'll use for that day. Sometimes we combine cards. Sometimes we use all the cards, like today's lesson just says A through Z. So that means you need every card. So you gather your materials. Today, and so in the read section, I'll tell you which books to get. We just have Typewriter Alphabet flashcards for today. There's a lot of information on the back, so you can read through those. And then it's the define section. So our definitions are related to whichever topic it is for that day. Sometimes there's only one, sometimes there's a bunch. Today there's a lot. So I'm going to show you how I wrote these in my journal as I read them to you, and I'll do that every time for you. All right, so botany. What is botany? That's the lesson for today. Botany is the scientific study of plants. But what is scientific? Scientific means using the methods and principles of science. Now, the scientific study of plants, but what is a plant? Sometimes this is actually a little tricky. A plant is a multi-celled living organism that uses photosynthesis to create its own food. There are cells that use photosynthesis that are not multi-celled, so those are not plants. Plants are multi-celled organisms. But what is an organism? An organism is a living thing made up of interdependent parts. But what does interdependent mean? Interdependent is two or more things that are distinct in form and function, but dependent on one another for their existence. All right, so I write these in my journal. It's a good way to keep up with them. I also list on the curriculum guide, the lesson guide, questions for each one. And I don't give you answers to these questions. In fact, I don't give you answers for any of the questions because I think that the question is actually where it's at. It's really important to question everything. But in these lessons, it's really important to come up with these questions, and you should come up with your own questions. And there isn't usually for every question in life, it's not like just a simple answer, right? So we need to continue to think about that question and see solutions and answers to that question, and it will deepen and become more exciting and vibrant over time. So there are answers that we'll get now, but don't feel like just because you have an answer that it's the answer, because every question leads to another question, and so you're just going to continue to learn and understand each concept. Today is a little weird. So our question and investigate is super different than it ever will be again. It says, look through the cards and think about different ways to organize them. How many ways can you think of to sort and organize the cards? Which organization might be the most helpful? Are different organizing systems better depending on your goal? So when you first open your box of Alphabet flashcards, other than the very first one, you're going to see everything is listed in alphabetical order. Now, because these lessons don't go in alphabetical order, that might not be the best way to organize them for you. If you want to learn the alphabet, this would be a great way for them to be organized. Actually, let me show you one more thing. So on the back of the 0 card, there's an entire index. So if you're looking for something specific, that's what you might want. I like the fact that it's on the very back of the cards, speaking of organization, because then you can just turn them over and see. Now, obviously, if you want to use the index, it's most helpful if they're in alphabetical order, but there aren't that many, and it's pretty easy to see which card is which, especially once you get familiar with what the cards look like. So I'm gonna do these on my table and let you see some different ways of organizing them. All right, so we've made it to the last section. The last section of each lesson is called journal. And usually I give you, sometimes I'll only give you one if it's really complicated, but usually I give you a couple different options. And you're welcome to come up with your own options for what you want to journal and alter the ones I gave you if you'd like to do that. Today we have 2. The first is to copy an illustration or do an original drawing while observing a plant. What I did. I had the plants in my hands, I cut them open, and then I drew them as I was looking at them. Don't worry if your drawing isn't accurate. Drawing is interesting. It takes you a long time to be able to really see in order to draw well, and then you just keep getting better over time, and depending on your subject matter. So I can draw flowers pretty well, but there are a lot of things I couldn't draw well. Like if I wanted to go draw horses, it would be easier for me to learn how to draw horses now that I've learned how to draw flowers, but I can't promise you that I'd go and draw a horse really well today, right? So depending on what it is that you're drawing, you'll get better at that as you practice over time, so it's totally fine. Really, the journal isn't about having it look pretty and amazing, like everyone wants this gorgeous piece of artwork. That's not really what it's about. What your journal is for you to document your learning experience. So there's 0 judgment in your journal. It's really just a tool for you to use. It is not, don't think of it as like a finished product. Really, it's just a tool. It's a place for you to record things. You can go back. All these questions that I have, like with the definitions, I write the questions on the page. And then if you find 3 weeks from now or 6 months from now, if you find an answer that relates to that question, you can go back to that page and write it in and take notes. So just think of it as a place to keep all of your notes together and practice your drawings and learn and experiment. Every time you fail, learn from your mistakes. It's amazing. Don't ever feel bad about messing up, okay? Don't ever feel bad about a drawing that isn't perfect. I will do a lesson, a video just on drawing and using your journal. So watch out for that. And in the meantime, don't judge yourself. The goal is to observe closely. You may even want to try blind drawing. Don't look at your paper at all. Just try to capture every curve and speckle on the flower that you're working with. So it's really not about making a perfect drawing. It's really about that connection between your hand and your eye. The second prompt is to make your own alphabet card. It was so hard for me because some letters there are like 15 flowers I wanted to do. Other letters, like the U, it took me years to figure out what I would do for that one. But there were a lot of plants that I really wanted to draw that I didn't draw just because I could only have one for that letter. So you can use any plant you want, any flower you want, and make your own card from that. Maybe you have a favorite flower. You can use the same format as the Typewriter alphabet cards, or you can create your own. Like maybe if you were creating alphabet cards, they would look totally different. Like I have my own style, you could have yours, or you could make it as like a replacement card for that letter that's in the Typewriter alphabet. And on my cards, on the back of them, the flashcards, they have all the facts on there. So you could actually also do that. You can make up your own facts and information that you would want to put on the back as a bonus. All right, so that's it for today's lesson. I hope that you guys have a really fun time playing around with the cards and drawing in your journal. If you want to go ahead and watch that video on what books you're going to need for the whole time, then do that and just play around and get familiar with the cards. And I'll see you for a more regular lesson in the future. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye.